So, bro, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Just chilling. Just enjoying some sports. I always love this type of year whenever everything's starting up for
Oh no.
basketball wise.
Yeah, no, I always like these the Thanksgiving tournaments that are coming up like Maui and all that, so
Yes.
be tuned into that tomorrow.
Especially with, I've got a basketball family, so, we all like sit around and watch it.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, and with it being with classes and everything, I'll just get my laptop out and I'll just be watching during class.
Right. Um, so, we can hop right into it with NBA stuff. So,
Yeah.
I've, the layout that I've got, we can talk about specific teams and just break down stuff. We can start right away with who are some of your teams that you think that could possibly win the championship this year?
I think the number one team to me is obviously the Nuggets. The reigning champions. They didn't lose much in the offseason besides Bruce Brown. They pretty much brought everyone back. Early on, they're looking pretty good. And with the West not being as good as it usually was in the past, with the Warriors not being as dominant as they were, with some of the top players in the West going to the Eastern Conference, I definitely view them as a front runner. I would say the Celtics are looking pretty good at the start of the season. Just looking at the standings here, they're 10-2. They haven't lost at home yet, which is always what you want to see. As being a dominant team, you don't want to lose at home. You want to make sure you are able to secure that. Um, I also would say probably the 76ers. Now that Harden's gone, I think the chemistry with the team is a lot better. I think Maxey is able to do a lot more now with him being the ball dominant guard. I think he's able to do more than Harden. I think Harden is still a good player, but I don't think his game was probably as useful as it would be,
Mm-hmm.
like it was back in the day. Um, I also I like Thunder as like a wild card team. They're sitting third place right now, 9-4, only a half game back of first place. The one thing that sticks out to me about the Thunder is they are 4-3 at home, but on the road they're 5-1. So they're a young team, but they don't allow the road environment to throw them off at all. And I think they're looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, I definitely think the Thunder are a dark horse with that because they're so young and they're so deep, and I could see someone like Shea getting the scoring title this year for sure as part of it because I mean he I mean I forgot how much he averaged last year, but he's had a 40-point game pretty recently. He's young, so he's gonna help lead this young Thunder team for a while. Some of the other ones, I agree with Nuggets. I would have thought because Bruce Brown played such like an X factor role with them last year that I didn't know how they would do without him. But um, Christian Brown has definitely stepped up with being a good backup, and I know he hasn't done a whole lot. But Peyton Watson is a young guy for me who I look to try to make a big jump. Along with their starters because their starters are just so like solid. They don't need a big three, big four. They just need consistent guys. KCP has now won 2 rings. And he can. His main thing is just shooting, and so does Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. is athletic, but his main thing is shooting. And Jokic just spaces the floor so well. Um, some other ones I've got is the Celtics. Also, they're meshing very well very early, which could be very scary for the rest of the league because if you've got a healthy KP the whole year, along with like Drew Holiday, who's got championship experience, and then of course you've got like Jalen Brown and Tatum. That could mesh well along with Derek White. Some other ones, I am a huge fan of how the 76ers got some experience for James Harden. And, I mean, I'll talk about it in a little bit, but with Maxey getting more of a bigger role, I could see him possibly winning Most Improved this year. And, of course, you've got Embiid, who is coming off an MVP year. Some other ones I've got the Bucks. They've they've got a solid core, and also like Dame and Giannis. Dame and Giannis are still trying to figure out how to play together, which it's early. So if they can find out like a effective way to like both get about 20, 25 a night, then they're gonna be nasty. One thing with that team, I mean, there's two teams that I want to speak about is the Bucks with Chris Middleton and the Warriors with Klay Thompson. They both, I mean, I know they've both won championships with those guys, but both guys have kind of lost a step, and there are other stars on the team that are trying to keep continuing on their runs. I don't know if those organizations give up on those players and trying to move them, or what they're trying to do. It's a big question mark that I've been thinking about because, I mean, you've got Klay Thompson shooting 1 for 5, 2 for 10, and then you've got Curry scoring 39. I mean, it's difficult. But two other ones, if the Lakers mesh well and Anthony Davis actually stays somewhat healthy the whole year, I feel like they can make it far because they've got good depth this year that like I don't think people realize because I mean you've got guards of like I mean even Cam Reddish is already showing that he's more valuable than he's been in the past, and you've got D'Lo and Gabe Vincent, Hachimura, Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes. I mean along with LeBron and Anthony Davis, and then I think as it comes closer to trade deadline, if the Suns can get an actual point guard, they're going to be effective. Because you can't just have, like, I mean, you've got two shooting guards, probably like two small forwards, and you can have KD as power forward, and then Nurkic. And then you've got, like, Eric Gordon off the bench, which they've got good role players off the bench. But there's no point guard on that team. And that's their biggest question mark. Do you have any hot takes or anything that you were thinking about that could possibly be unpopular?
Um, you were talking about the Bucks there, and I think one thing that people aren't realizing yet is that they're going to miss the defensive tenacity of Drew Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I think Drew Holiday, and he's one of my favorite players. I think he's one of the most underrated two-way players in the NBA. I think his offense is underrated just because he's not known as a shooter. He's more of a facilitator point guard. He's going to get down the lane. He's going to look to create. But his defense, he's able to guard 1 through 5. He's not a tall point guard by any means, but he's a stocky point guard. So his size is able to combat with that of a big man down low, and he's not just going to get bullied. And I think Dame is a big step down as far as defense goes. And I like how you said, it is going to take time for them to mesh together, and once they do, I think it will click. But I do think the defense is going to take a little bit of a drop off.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think will keep them from winning championship this year. Another hot take, I don't think the Suns, they'll make the playoffs. Even with Book, KD, and Beal, we've already seen early in the season, Beal has missed almost 3/4 of the games they played, and now he's going to be out with at least another month, I think they said, with this injury. Book has been in and out of the lineup. KD's been the only one that's been in the lineup, but he's getting old. His averages have gone down a little bit, and without the depth that they're missing on the bench because of all the trades that they made, I don't know how far KD at this age is going to be able to carry that team. So I think that's a hot take that I had at the beginning of the season, and right now they're sitting at 6-6, 2-4 at home, and just the depth of the team just isn't really looking pretty for me. I think that in the East, when you're looking at the standings, you see the Bulls sitting at 5-9, and a lot of these videos that you're seeing of the team, Levine and DeRozan they just aren't looking like they want to be there anymore. So I think by the trade deadline, I think you'll probably see those two on a different team, probably.
I could definitely see the Bulls blowing up their roster, what's hurt them so much is that Lonzo Ball has had these issues for the longest time because he it's another point guard thing. You don't. I mean, point guards are so valued today, and that's what goes with your son's point. They need a point guard. They don't have a true main point guard that really starts for that matter.
Yeah.
And that's why the Bulls are having difficulty. I thought that Ayo Dosunmu, the one from Illinois,
Yeah.
I thought that he could take a big step, but it's not looking like it. Javon Carter, I'm pretty sure is at the Bulls still. I mean, he signed over the off season, which that was a solid pickup for them. But he's a good backup. They need a good starting caliber point guard. But
Yeah.
one X factor I will say for the Bucks is Malik Beasley. He uh, he provides good shooting, and also, I mean, whenever he wants to, he'll play defense. But I have a couple of hot takes, which this one is looking more obvious now. But I said at the beginning of the year, I don't see the Grizzlies making the playoffs. They of course, with Ja being out 25 games, hurts them a lot. And now you've got Marcus Smart out about 3 to 5 weeks. I'm pretty sure is what I saw. They do not have depth whatsoever. I mean, they've got Desmond Bain and Jaren Jackson Jr. And some guys, I mean, maybe take the big step. I mean, we saw some like David Roddy a little bit, and Santi Aldama, I want to say his last name. He's been doing pretty decent lately, but they just don't have a whole squad put together to win games. I mean, they've got a below 500 record. I mean, and they're hurting with Ja. And I mean, Ja's gonna have to average like 30, 35 points for him to stay relevant in games. But I mean, I thought that them picking up Derrick Rose would be nice, but Derrick Rose is getting up there in age. My second hot take is that, I mean, as we see the Thunder developing their team and, I mean, having a lot of younger guys, I see the Trailblazers trying to follow in the footsteps of the Thunder. As they are getting younger, they trade away Dame to get some more younger talent, and they're building around Anthony Simons, they're building around Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, and I could see them possibly trading away Jeremy Grant because, I mean, he's gonna want to compete for championships here soon. But also, DeAndre Ayton's still on the younger side. You had Robert Williams with their team, but he kind of got screwed over with how the Celtics treated him, kind of like how they traded Isaiah Thomas with Isaiah Thomas's hip injury, because they basically just rushed him back. But I could see the Trailblazers, because they got a lot of picks too. I could see them just taking a multiple year process to try to build up their young core, and especially because you've got a coach like Chauncey Billups, is a second, third year coach now. I mean, he's patient. It's not like he's gonna want to win automatically. But so we talked about it a little bit, but do you see any possibility that the Clippers mesh well with these four players that they've got now that used to be superstars?
Well, I think we've already seen a change in dynamic from these players with Westbrook taking this bench role. I think Westbrook saw that these four together are going to have to change how they play. And so Westbrook, he probably knows that Harden needs that starting role. He's probably not going to do well coming off the bench, just knowing his personality and everything. And he's played with Harden a couple of years now in the NBA. And I think Westbrook also saw how him coming off the bench for the Lakers really helped. And I think for them, I think that's going to be very crucial for that team going forward. I also think health is going to be very crucial for them because you can't have Kawhi being hurt and PG being hurt throughout the year, or else the meshing's just never going to happen.
Right.
I think Harden coming is going to help them a little bit in the shooting aspect. I think Harden still has the capability to shoot well from the three. I think he can probably get 38% on the year. If I had to guess, I mean, he's getting up there in age, but he's also not that old to where he can't create his own shot still. But I think as far as meshing, I think they just have to find a way to. I think keeping two on the floor at a time is good enough. When you get to a point of having three on there, I think you're just getting to have a little bit too much personality on the floor. Because they're all, I don't want to say ball dominant, but you can't keep the ball out of PG's hands too long. You can't keep the ball out of Kawhi's hands too long. You can't keep the ball out of James Harden's hand too long. And if you have all three of them on the court at the same time, then there's not enough to go around on the court. So I think they definitely have the opportunity to do it. It's just, I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but if it doesn't happen this year, when is it going to happen, you know?
Right. And with that, I mean, I still need to get convinced that James Harden has changed because, I mean, we've seen it with Westbrook. Like, Westbrook has changed his mentality about how he's doing things. And, I mean, of course, he got bashed and whenever he played for the Lakers, which, was it deserving, was it not? I mean, we don't know. I mean, I don't think he should have gotten that much scrutiny, but of course, it showed whenever he got traded away that the Lakers meshed well without him, but he's playing his role well now, so I mean, it doesn't look like he should have been a scapegoat, but I could see Harden being more of a scapegoat now, I mean, if the Clippers keep losing games, and like you talked about, I can see the Clippers the Clippers, because they've done it before, if this experiment doesn't work, I could see them just completely blowing up their team and just trading away even Paul George and trying to get something for Kawhi, because those guys are getting up in age, and if they keep trying to do the load management stuff and then try to perform in the playoffs, and I mean, you find out that your feet aren't under you because you haven't played enough games, that's gonna hurt you. But we'll transition into the awards. So we'll go with the first one. So MVP, who you got your main guys MVP?
My main guys as of now, I would say my top three would probably be Jason Tatum. I think he's having a great start to the season. I think he's probably the main reason as to why they're 11-2. We saw when they were in the finals a couple years ago, he just did not show up, and that's why they lost. And if he had just played a little bit better, I think they would have beat the Warriors in that final. And I think he's starting to show that killer mentality this year early on. So I would put him up there. I would also put, Jokic up there. I mean, he's getting triple-doubles almost every other night, coming off the finals. And he's just, to be that big of a human and to move that well and to handle the ball that well and just do the things that he does is pretty unbelievable. And I think my third one would be Embiid. I think Embiid had a slower start to the season than he wanted, but I think he's picking it up here lately, and I think they're going to probably turn the corner here soon and pick it back up and get back on a good little winning streak here. So I think those would probably be my top three for right now.
Mm-hmm. I've got two main ones right now, and one of them is Jokic, because, like you've talked about, Jokic is just a walking triple-double. And it doesn't have to be a beautiful triple-double. He moves pretty dang slow. I was more of an Embiid guy coming into the year last year, and I was glad for him to get an MVP. But then once that playoff run started and Jokic just showed how freaking dominant he is, it made me realize how much better of a basketball player he is. Embiid, I think that why I like Embiid is he's got that dominance, kind of like how Shaq did whenever he was with the Lakers, which of course Shaq had more of a dominant thing to him, but I like how Embiid just gets the powerful dunks and blocks down low. But Jokic is just such a polished basketball player. Another one, which this can probably sound like a bias for me as I like the Mavericks, Luka has had a great start to this year, and everybody is surprised by how the Mavericks are doing. And I mean, with being a Mavericks fan, I'm kind of surprised, kind of not, and I'm not surprised because, I mean, you've got all the guys coming in had a training camp together, and they got to mesh well. I mean, Kyrie got traded with probably about 30 games left, and trying to get a guy who needs the ball in his hands a lot and shoots about 15 to 20 shots per game does not help the vibe of a team. And so that's why they didn't make the playoffs, is because they got confused about who was taking which shot here and there. I mean, there was a game against the Timberwolves last year that Luka and Kyrie basically played hot potato at the end of the game, and then no one got a shot off, and Timberwolves ended up winning. Now that they know how to mesh well together, I definitely can see. I mean, because Luka had 45 points or something like that against the Nets. It might have been 49. But and he's gonna get himself a triple double, which it's gonna look a little bit more effort based than Jokic. But I mean, Luka can definitely take charge of this team. I mean, he has a lot of more help this year with an active big guy down low and Derek Lively. Derek Lively's been impressing me so far because he's just so active on the glass. I mean, people almost forgot about him because he was hurt and then did not do a whole lot for Duke last year. But people forget that Derek Lively was the number one player in the 2022 class. And the Mavericks kind of got a steal with that. But we can move on to Defensive Player of the Year. Who do you think is going to get that award?
Defensive Player of the Year. So this might, like you were just saying, a little biased. I'm a Pelicans fan. But I would say Herb Jones. Early on in the season, I've been watching them a little bit more closely than I do any other team. And there was a stretch where he was out a few games, and Pelicans just went completely downhill. I mean, of course, they're without McCollum and a couple other players right now, but they were doing just fine without him. And then Herb Jones went out, and defensive-wise, their statistics just went downhill. He comes back in the next couple of games, and they go on a winning streak, and they beat some pretty good teams in the Nuggets and the Mavericks, and even Luka was asked after the game what a difference Herb makes, and he said, I mean, he's an All-NBA defensive player, and I think with him being in the New Orleans market, it probably undervalues him a little bit because not a lot of people are paying attention to them, especially with Zion being in and out still a little bit, and people are just waiting for him to actually play like people know he can. So I think for me right now, my dark horse for that would be Herb Jones.
I've got a couple here and there for, I've got two basically hot takes and then one bold prediction. My bold prediction is Bam Adebayo. He can help. I mean, the Heat are always a good defensive team. I know that they started out pretty dang slow, but they are off of a finals run, which was not an easy path whatsoever. I mean, they had one or two play-in games, and then proceeded to have to play the 1 seed in the Bucks and upset them. And then even in the conference finals, they were up 3-0 and about blew a 3-0 lead. So I mean, they're definitely going to start off a little slow. Also, Tyler Hero coming back from a hand injury. But Bam is so active down low with defending. I know that he's a little undersized, but I mean he's a force that people have a difficult time moving down low. I said possibly a healthy Anthony Davis. I mean, healthy has got to be in there because, people say healthy AD this, healthy AD that. If Anthony Davis can stay healthy, he's always active on blocks, steals, and just helping on the defending side. I mean, he's always a force. And my third one is a extremely hot take, but Wemby is averaging 2.6 blocks already and 1.1 steals. He's shown that he can be a very good defender, and of course with being 7'4" and as quick on his feet as he is, he blocks so many shots. I mean, there was one in the preseason whenever he jumped up and blocked Klay Thompson's 3-point shot. Stuff like that. I mean, and also of course, the fans love him already, and I mean that can attract votes. So I mean I could possibly see. I mean in the last 10 games, he's basically averaging 3 blocks a game. I mean that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah,
So
no, I mean, I
yeah,
agree with you on that.
but their team is not very good. So I
No,
mean, and your team usually has to be pretty solid. So that's why it's a hot take.
yeah.
We'll move over to most improved.
I've got one dude, and I want you to guess who you think I'm talking about. So, coming out of the draft, I think he was the steal of the draft. I think he got drafted way lower than he should have. Came out of LSU, led SEC in scoring as a freshman, um, and he's just now getting his time to shine.
Cam Thomas.
There you go. Cam Thomas is the 11th leading scorer in the NBA, averaging 26.9 points, only playing 32 and a half minutes. This kid was the steal of the draft, and when he got drafted to the Nets, I said this kid's he's gonna be a star. Leading the SEC as a freshman in scoring is a tall feat to accomplish, and he did it pretty easily. Whenever he gets into the game now, I mean, his game is just so smooth. Everything just comes to him so easily, it looks like. I mean, he doesn't even blink an eye. It doesn't even look like he's trying out there. Um, and I think just for him to come off the bench from last year to come into now as probably the vital piece for the Nets, a lot of people thought that was going to be Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson with that trade that they made. But I think Cam Thomas, man, I think he's improved so much. And I don't even think that it was that he improved. I just don't think the Nets really gave him that ability to go out there and do it because they were just holding him back so much.
Yeah, he's actually one of mine too. I mean, and because like you mentioned, I mean Cam Thomas has been a scorer since basically came out of the womb. I mean, I've got personal experience just because he played for my uncle at Oak Hill, and he's Oak Hill Academy's all-time leading scorer, which you've got about 40 NBA draftees that played at Oak Hill Academy, and you're telling me that Cam Thomas is the all-time leading scorer. That says something. And then comes in as a freshman, like you said, and leads SEC in scoring at LSU, and then got drafted in the Nets, who that's whenever they had Kyrie, Harden, and KD, and he still, like, in preseason games would get buckets, but then, like, had limited time. I mean, you could see the potential with Cam Thomas because, like, he would, I mean, of course, he's got that it factor. Like, he always talks about Kobe, which if you have a main motivation with Kobe, I mean, it's almost like I have a bias, and it's like, okay, I want to see this guy, like, shine. But and also he talks about, like, wanting to one-on-one, like, Kevin Durant every day and, like, talking smack with him just, like, as teammates. Like, he's got that competitive factor. The only couple things that I could see with him not is a lot of people are, I mean, a lot of naysayers are talking about his defense, which this Nets team is young and maybe the discipline isn't there yet with the defending side, which Cam Thomas makes it up with his offense. But my other two most improved is, my first one is Maxey, and it's not that Maxey stunk last year, but his usage percentage is going up like crazy this year with James Harden not being there and the ball being in his hands most of the time. I mean, we saw it, like, a week or two ago where Maxey had 50? I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, everybody was surprised by that, but, like, I mean, it's Maxey's time to shine. I mean, Maxey could even possibly get an all-star appearance this year. I mean, just if he keeps going off like he is early. I mean, and also going in a pick and roll with Joel Embiid. I mean, he could shoot the three or dish it down to Embiid for a dunk. I mean, that's how I think the Sixers team could be deadly, because the NBA is going back to a more duo base than a trio, and I'm all for it. My third one is kind of a question mark with the prediction, but I mean, it's pretty easy in why I say it is, but I could say Zion Williamson if he plays the whole year, just because we haven't really seen a full year of Zion, and we know that he's dominant. But if he can play a full year, I mean, I could see them giving him the most improved just because, like, he's most improved because he's actually staying in shape for the whole year. And, I mean, you can lead the Pelicans to a playoff berth, which I can most likely see it happening.
Yeah, I also want to say another one for me would be Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
On off like what you said with Maxey, it's not that he stunk last year, but he got his contract, and he's averaging 24 points a game. He's averaging 12 and a half assists a game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way that he's facilitating this offense for the Pacers, he's keeping them in the playoff race early on. They're right now the number 7 seed, sitting at 7-5. Their roster is, honestly, if you look at it, it's not that great.
It's very subpar.
Yeah, I mean, just what he's able to do with that roster is pretty incredible, and I think he's just getting better each and every year.
Mm-hmm. They said at one point, like, there's a stat, I don't know if it was 32 or 35 assists in 2 games and 0 turnovers. He is so efficient that, like, that's a perfect plus minus. Like, he's definitely like the plus minus GOAT right now, just with how efficient he is. Like, whenever Giannis had 54 against the Pacers, and the Pacers ended up winning the game still, it was because Halliburton was, whenever Giannis stepped down the game, Halliburton started going to work and slicing and dicing on the defenders and either taking it to the basket or knocking down threes. But we can move over to Coach of the Year. Who you got there?
Right now, for Coach of the Year, I would probably go with the Rockets and Ime Udoka. I think, he had the trouble last year that he got in trouble with the Celtics and everything, and I think everyone knows that situation. But right now, they started off the season pretty slow. Let me look here at their schedule. I think they started off the season, 0-3. They went one of them in overtime, and the other 2 weren't even that close. And then they ripped off 6 games in a row, beating Sacramento 2 times in a row. They beat the Lakers, they beat the Pelicans, and they beat the Nuggets. Those are all playoff teams, all quality teams, and one being the reigning champions, and the other being the runners-up of the Western Conference. I think they've got a young core, and he went out and he got Van Fleet to be his point guard. Because, Van Fleet, he's not old, but he's young enough to be able to gel with his team. He went out and got Dillon Brooks to be, that mean guy that's going to set the tone. He's kind of the Draymond for the Rockets.
Yes.
And he's kind of honing him to be that villain type of person, but he's honed him in to a point where he's not going to get thrown out of the game every time. He's understanding his role in the team, and that he doesn't have to go out there and start a fight every game, but he's going to go out there and set the tone. And so I think what he's done so far with them is looking really good, and I would put him as my number 1 right now.
I had 2, and one of them was an early prediction, which it's not looking too great right now. But my first one that I said is Frank Vogel, and that was because I thought that the Suns could mesh well, which maybe they mesh well in the end, and they go on a hot run here. But I thought that, Vogel would be more motivated because of how he got done wrong with the Lakers, because that wasn't his fault. They put together an old roster, like age-wise, that set Vogel up for failure, and, he ended up being the scapegoat with that and getting fired. Whenever you try to put an old Carmelo Anthony, older Westbrook with LeBron who gets hurt, and then, got hurt that year, and Anthony Davis who got hurt, that's not your fault. But so I thought that would lead to him being more motivated to coach up a team. But, like I said, they've got problems that they can possibly solve with the trade deadline. But My main one now is Nick Nurse. The the Sixers are usually, a pretty solid Eastern Conference team, but then once they face up against, the Celtics or the Bucks or the Heat, then they kind of shy away. But this Sixers team looks very scary right now. They started out like 9-2, 8-3, or something like that. And Nick Nurse knows how to handle these guys, like spacing out the floor. And making sure that no one's upset. Because of course, whenever you've got James Harden being a diva on the sideline, the vibe of the team could be thrown off, and then that could cause you to lose games. But Nick Nurse is making sure that they are going to stay on track. And they're going to, be set up to have another good year and possibly make a finals run. So, the next one, I wanted to go into the newer award before anything. So, do you have anybody written down for the Clutch Player of the Year award?
Ooh, for the Clutch Player of the Year. I think I would, if I had to go with anyone right now, I would probably go with Maxey. I think not just because he's hit any buzzer beaters, but I think down the stretch of the game, he's getting the ball and he's going to go score. He's going to go get you a basket. You tell him that you need a two, he's going to go down the lane, he's going to go get you a bucket. You tell him you need a three to win the game, he's going to go get it. I don't really think, as far as clutch right now, we've had too many people that have hit multiple game winners. But I think as far as facilitating the offense down the stretch is what I look for in clutch. And I think as far as Maxey goes, he's looked the most calm and the most resilient as far as going down the stretch in the game and just overall being the go-to player.
I've got two that I wrote down here. First one is Steph Curry. As guys like Klay Thompson, who have kind of lost his step, like I talked about, and Wiggins is just like a go-to guy if Curry isn't getting going, and Chris Paul, is going to do the facilitating. Pretty sure Steph Curry's already gotten a game winner or two, and I could see him taking a lot more of those shots, of course, if they get down the stretch. And he's been shooting since he was out of the womb, basically, so I could see that. Another one is Jason Tatum. Like you talked about for MVP, he's solid, and he's always a go-to regular season guy. And with that, he's going to want to take every game-winning shot imaginable, and if he hits a good amount of those, you got to call him the Clutch Player of the Year. But with that, I wanted, a little side comment that I heard the other day, which is very smart, is people were comparing Jason Tatum to Jimmy Butler a little bit, and how they're the complete opposite player, which I found interesting. Jason Tatum is always a big regular season guy. Like he's gotten a couple scoring titles and helped lead his team to like a 1 and 2 seed. But then like the playoffs hit, and like you talked about before, he kind of like shies away, almost. Like it looks like he wants to win, but it's like he starts missing a lot of shots that he hits in regular season. We saw it against Philly. He ended up he hit a clutch shot, but he shot 3 for 14 or something like that. And then you've got Jimmy Butler, who could not care less about the regular season. And then whenever the playoffs hit, he has games like he has 56 points. So, if there were clutch time in the playoffs, it would be Jimmy Butler. But with Jason Tatum, I think that, he's going to want to take those shots, even if he's got guys like Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, and KP around him.
You mentioned that, and the one thing that I see with that is when it comes to postseason, it's not that Jimmy Butler is a better player, but the people around him are better players.
Yep.
And I think all that with Gabe Vincent and Max Strus and just the contracts they got this offseason just because of how much better they performed in
Right.
the playoffs. Because just the effect that Jimmy has on him. So I think the one thing for Tatum is going to be is not only how good of a player can he be, but how good of a player can he make those around him.
Yeah. We'll move over to Sixth Man of the Year.
Ooh, Sixth Man of the Year. You know, I've been wanting this kid to get it for a long time now, and I think he's very well deserved. Emmanuel Quickly.
I like it.
I think even last year, I think he deserved to get it last year. I think he got snubbed of it. But Emmanuel Quickly is, almost a guaranteed double-digit scorer every game. If you look at his stats right now, he's averaging 15 and a half, shooting 46% from the floor, and getting you just under 4 rebounds and 4 assists a game. He's had his nights where he's struggled a little bit. A couple nights ago, he struggled from the floor, but 27, 20, 17, 19, 18, 24. Coming off the bench, he's going to give you points. He's going to give you productive minutes. He's not going to turn the ball over too much. He's going to be able to draw the defenders out on him just because of how far he can shoot the ball. And I think that's going to open up the floor more for them. So I think for me that right now he would be my pick for Sixth Man of the Year.
I definitely like that one. I've got two for this one. My first one is Kelly Oubre. With the Sixers playing well at the beginning, Kelly Oubre's been that spark plug for him off the bench. I've always liked Kelly Oubre just because of the energy that he brings with the teams that he's with. Of course, he started at Washington and moved over to Phoenix, and then went to Charlotte, and now he's at Philadelphia. All those times he's been a consistent player, averaging around 13 to 15, and even averaging 18 one year. He's always going to be a consistent guy that can be a go-to guy if Maxey and or Embiid are getting locked up. He can go in there and score. Not that Tobias Harris can't, but Tobias Harris hasn't been that guy in a little bit for him. Kind of bit the Sixers in the butt whenever the Sixers gave Al Horford and Tobias Harris contracts over Jimmy Butler. And it seems like Tobias Harris has kind of fallen off from there. But even if Tobias Harris is struggling, Kelly Oubre is always going to bring that energy off of the bench and just be a good spark plug that the Sixers will need in later down the line in the regular season and the playoffs. Who do you got for Rookie of the Year?
Rookie of the Year right now, I would say, I think a lot of people are forgetting that he is considered a rookie. I would go Chet Holmgren.
Yep.
I think, there was a lot of hype coming into the season with Victor, and well-deserved hype, I would say. But I think people just forgot about Victor because of his injury. And, he's had a heck of a start to the season so far. Just at his size, I think, you can compare him to Victor. And you can just kind of see the difference of the two types of players they are. Victor is going to be able to get his if he wants. But I think Chet right now kind of has that more of a dominance in his game right now, averaging 17 points, 8 rebounds. You already saw the other night against the Warriors, hit a game-winning 3, I believe it was, in overtime. Had 36 points.
And he hit the 3 to tie it up to go into overtime.
Yeah. Had 36 points in that game. He's only had one game this year where he's had single digits, and that was 9 points. So he was a free throw away from having double digits in every game so far this year. He's almost had double-digit rebounds in every other game. And his block, he's had a block in almost every game. He had 7 blocks the second game of the season against the Cavaliers. So I think you just look at every stat that he's put up so far, and you're like, yeah, he's still a rookie. That would probably be my pick right now.
Yeah. That's mine too, and I've got a couple reasons why. One of them is his efficiency. whenever you look at, it's a Chet versus Wemby. There's no way that you can move around it. The other the other rookies are solid, but you've got Chet averaging 17, 8, and 3 on 55% field goal. And that's on basically 44% three-point percentage. He's so efficient for this Thunder team that, with them being 9-4, about to be 10-4, that's huge for a big guy that can step it out and shoot it. He's shooting 90% from the free throw line. Everything that he's doing, is just like a plus minus galore because, that's what, the Thunder don't need a guy to score. Of course, he scored 36 last night, but you've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and you need a good second or third main guy that can be consistent the whole way. Unlike, with Wemby's averaging basically 19 and 10, and he's doing it on 43% field goal percentage and 28.4% from 3-point. And the thing that's hurting him also is that they're 3 and 10, which, that's why the Spurs got the number 1 pick, is because they're not as deep as the Thunder are. But even with the Thunder being deep, you still need guys to perform, and Chet Holmgren is doing that. He, of course, both Wemby and Chet definitely need to gain weight, but they're showing that both of them can, are very light on their feet and can move. Pick and pop. They're perfect big guys for today's NBA. So, the last segment I have is about the in-season tournament. I'll get first your thoughts, and then if you have a prediction on who will possibly win the in-season tournament.
Yeah, so I was actually talking about this the other day with a couple buddies of mine. So you're aware of the NBA wanting to expand the league, correct?
Right.
And one of those destinations just happens to be Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where is the in-season tournament going to be at?
Vegas.
I believe they're doing this to see what kind of fan base they can draw out to Vegas, to see if that's going to be a feasible site for them. I think if the in-season tournament does well as far as fan attraction and the amount of attendance they get for there, I think Vegas, you're going to end up seeing being one of those expansion teams. So that's the one thing I'm looking towards as we get closer to that. I like this in-season tournament. I think for fans who say that the NBA doesn't care about the fans, and that these players aren't playing until the playoffs come around. I think the NBA has shown that they do care. They're trying to figure out ways to make these players more competitive, make the game more enjoyable as we start the season and as we're further away from the playoffs. So I like that. As far as a prediction for a winner, the Pelicans, I'm always going to say them because it's my team. And if they can get healthy, I would like to see them win because right now they're first place in their division. It's a hard division to come out of with the Group B with the Nuggets in there and the Mavericks and the Rockets and Clippers. And if they can get healthy, I think they can be a sneaky team to win that and jumpstart some momentum to help them towards the playoffs. But I think right now my pick would just probably be the Celtics. I think they're playing the best out of anyone right now. I think they're in a groove offensively. The addition of Drew Holiday and Kristaps was big for them defensively. I think, with Robert Williams, they had rim protection, but I think Kristaps is a little bit more of a better player offensively and defensively than Robert Williams was for them. And I think Drew brings that defensive tenacity and that that bulldog mentality. And so I think for me, I would probably pick the Celtics.
Well, I mean, I'll give my quick thoughts on it. I mean, I think it's definitely something smart to bring more fans into, like, getting that experience. Like, oh, I went to an in-season tournament game. Like, I mean, that's another special fan experience moment. And also, if players want more incentives, they can get that with money, winning the whole thing. With my prediction, I have three actually, which I mean I know that's a lot, but the first one, of course, I'm going to say Mavericks because I could see Luka just averaging like 45, 12, and 11, and just willingly carrying them to an in-season tournament victory. I mean, he's done it with. I mean, he's done it in playoff games. He's done it in the FIBA World Cup. I mean, I could just see him going on a hot streak. And then, of course, you've got Kyrie Irving, who has had actual championship experience. So he'll know how to lock in and help his team win. Another one is the Lakers. And I say that because it looks like they're buying in and trying to win early. Like, they're last time I checked, they were undefeated in their pool for the in-season tournament, which I mean, and LeBron is like, I mean, LeBron had like 35 in the last in-season tournament game, so it shows that the players still care, even if, I mean, this new thing that could just gain an eye roll from all the players. I mean, they're locking in. My last prediction with that is the Thunder, and it's because with all of them being young and not winning a championship, I could see them just being motivated and trying to experience a championship, like win early, just so they gain experience for the future and like the playoffs, and just be like, okay, and this is how we locked in and played for the in-season tournament. This is what we need to do night in and night out for the playoffs. But that about does it with the NBA episode of this podcast. I mean, you have anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here?
No, I think I'm looking forward to how this in-season tournament shapes out, and I'm looking forward to some of these guys getting healthy. Looking forward to the impact that Joel Morant's going to have when he gets back.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to how LeBron does as the season goes on as far as his age-wise goes. He's looking pretty good right now. And when trade deadline comes around, I'm interested to see, who are the movers and who are the buyers.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a long season, and there are always things in the news that people pay attention to, like the Dame trade, the Harden trade. I mean, so it's interesting to see what that next one will be. But next time we do this, it'll probably be the playoffs or something like that. So look forward to that. But Landon, appreciate you hopping on here. Definitely had a good talk, and we'll look back and see if our predictions were right or wrong.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to getting back on and hopefully seeing how much I was right and then obviously seeing how much I was wrong, because I'm sure I'll probably be wrong about most of this stuff.
I was about to say.
Exist.
Yeah, my predictions are either going to be super on or super off. I mean, there's not going to be in between.
Yeah.
But all right, brother.